Good morning. This is Mary Noble Braden at the Mountain Magnolia Show, where we reveal the heart and soul of our community. I hope you beautiful people are doing wonderful today. We have a inspirational guest today that was really on the front line of Hurricane Helene. He has amazing stories to share with you guys. And I want to introduce Kenan Colt. Kenan, thank you so much for coming on the Mountain Magnolia Show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I cannot wait for the audience to hear about your amazing story. Kenan, you're an Eagle Scout, right?
Yeah, so I have some first aid training.
And that was a really that was that was an experience being an Eagle Scout that you really could help other people.
Yeah, and I've been able to use my my training a couple times in the past, and those times I actually I felt so good, and eventually I would like to volunteer at a fire station, or I even thought about becoming a first responder.
Well, tell the audience first so they can get the context. Kenan lives in Black Mountain, and you have for what?
I'm a native. I grew up in Madison County, North Carolina, on a small farm, and been in Asheville, I've lived in all different corners of Asheville since 2000, and then Black Mountain, it's been my home for a while now.
And tell the audience the type of work that you do so they can understand also how your story is going to connect with all of this.
Yeah, I restore vintage travel trailers, and I have a shop in Old Fort, and I've been doing that for about 9 years now. I also help my mom, Cindy Lou Chenard, with her art business, and I've been doing that for close to 9 months, and it's been a lot of fun helping my mom with her business, and being able to be creative with both, the trailers and the artwork, and I'm her assistant, and I help with some of the creative side too.
You're living a good life, being able to do art and also be in the woods and on the trails. So let's start. I want to hear your story. So I want you to start from the time of that makes sense, whether it's before or actually when you were starting to go out to different areas.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around the whole experience. I actually just started writing a book. I want to share my stories and the stories of other people, and starting a film project as well. So after all of this, I feel like there's a lot of things that people need to hear, and a lot of things that we all need to talk about to make sure that we're better prepared in the future. Yeah.
Well, all right. So I know we talked earlier, and what caught my attention is when you went and searched for your son,
Yeah.
who was with his mom in
Yeah.
Garin Creek,
Yeah.
and you went there because you couldn't get in touch.
No.
With
Yeah. As everybody knows, that was here, and then other people are learning what happened. All of our signals just were gone, and we're in the dark in more ways than one. No cell signal, no power, no water, and then so many trees down and mudslides that it was hard for us to connect with each other here in Black Mountain and other little towns. And so I was with my mom. I was able to make it over to my mom's house the morning of the flood, and there were trees down everywhere. Tried about 8 different routes. Couldn't make it to her in my van. Went back to my house, hopped on my dirt bike, and rode up through the woods to get around one of the trees to make it to her
Wow.
house. She was worried. We're both of our houses were in the evacuation zone, from what my older brother told me, before the signals went out, and made it over to her house. Her house like almost got flooded just from runoff. It had started going down, and we felt safe to stay there for a little bit. And then I thought that it was localized. I didn't know how widespread the destruction was, and couldn't look at my phone, so it wasn't until the following night that
Which is what's Friday or Saturday? Saturday.
I guess that would be Saturday night that I made it. I started worrying more and more about my son and his mom and her partner out Garen Creek Road in Fairview. And I drove out there from the Charlotte Highway side because I figured Highway 9 might be rough, and then got to a sinkhole part of the way out Garen Creek Road where the road was caved in about 75 feet.
And this was at night you were hiking?
This was at like 9:30 at night. I think I had a backpack, flashlight, boots on, and I really didn't know what I was going to come across, and I didn't even expect to be blocked, like from getting up there.
So you went to Fairview on Highway 64, right? And you're hiking up. Did you have an idea of what road you were going towards? Garen Creek?
Yeah. I've driven that road so many times, but once I started making it out, I started seeing so many trees down, and let's see, I think I stopped at the fire station, but they were all out. They must have all been out on calls because I didn't see, like, the lights were on, trucks were running. There were some trucks running, but nobody was there. I'm there. Like I said, I'm still trying to get my timeline together, but so made it out. Parked at this big sinkhole, and just walked up, and the road had been caved in at several places. I saw where the water had come up over houses, and mudslides, and the road was covered in several places, was totally covered in boulders and mud, and you couldn't even, like, there were places where I just didn't even recognize where I was, but I just kept hiking up, and I was yelling into houses, like, ask, everybody okay, trying to hear a response if somebody needed help, like shining my flashlight, like trying to, just, I felt like there were probably people out there that needed help, and I remember this really eerie silence. I could hear the creek trickling, now at this point, and I heard every once in a while I would hear a fire alarm beeping in a house. Everything was dark. Made contact with one person only on the way out.
After you had made sure your son was okay?
No, this was on the way out there.
Oh, okay.
And it was, I didn't see her, but it was a woman's voice that came from a house in the valley just before getting to my son's house. And she, was like, "Are you okay?" She said she was okay. And, I was like, "Are you sure?" And she said, "Yeah." And so I continued to yeah.
I talked to some other people in the area as well about that silence.
Yeah.
Just how quiet it was. a day after the storm. No power, very little sirens. I don't think the
Yeah.
helicopters really started
No,
coming
not for
until,
a few days.
yeah. And so really, Kenan was, you saw a lot of the things before the
Yeah.
first responders got there.
Yeah, it was weird. Like at that point, I still didn't know how widespread it was, and I didn't know that the highway was shut off on both sides. And so I made contact with my son and his mom. They were really, happy to see me.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Gave him a big hug and talked, kind of shared what they had heard and what I had heard so far, and seen. They said that some of their neighbors came and checked on them, and no emergency services had reached them yet, but that they had lost several of their neighbors, that they already
Their house
knew
got swept
about
away.
that. So they said, you can stay. Why don't you stay here tonight? I still wanted to go check on my dad in Asheville, and so I don't know, it was maybe 11 o'clock. I hiked out, kind of shining my flashlight. I didn't want to like go up to doors because
You scare people.
Yeah, it was late
Yeah.
at night, and I could scare people, and I don't have authority to go into a house, and if there was somebody yelling for help, I would. But,
Right.
And so made it to my car, went to my dad's. He was fine. Stayed there that night, and then I linked up with. I volunteer with Bounty and Soul, and that was one of the first places I went to see if what kind of activity was at the hub, and nobody was there. I found, driving by the Presbyterian church, they had already set up.
And it's the Black Mountain Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, the one right across the street from the police station, next to the White Horse, and they had already set up a kitchen. Like, this was actually before I hiked out Garen Creek Road that next day. They were cooking food. I met up with one of the with Kurt, that works at Bounty and Soul, and he said that he hopped in his refrigerated truck, threw as much produce as he could in there, and headed over to the Presbyterian church where they just started cooking. And it, I joined in on that and just started serving food. People started showing up.
You're finding your place quickly, very
Yeah.
quickly. And so here you are. He's got these great Eagle Scout skills as well as cooking skills. So you find your son, who is Coyote is what,
8.
8, okay. And then you check on your dad, and now you're here in Black Mountain using your survivor skills, and you're helping cook for. This is what, Sunday maybe?
Well, I actually the next day, I think Saturday, I linked up with Kurt,
okay.
with Bounty and Soul, and we don't even have to get the whole timeline right.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how are we gonna? We don't have cell signal, so how are we gonna link up? And so we just decided to start meeting at the Presbyterian church, and then we would go to the warehouse, figure out what we had available, where it could go. And so we started meeting there, and then we changed our meeting spot over to the hub on 70, where we would gather up loads of produce and what we had in the warehouse at the time of the flood, and we started supplying. At first it was just the one kitchen, and then it was 2, and then 3, and then 4. And, as we linked up with people, it just kind of expanded from there. And then we started getting supplies in, And I was kind of I was trying to do a lot of different things, and like doing, you know, some search and rescue, wellness checks, as well as like helping at the warehouse with the food distribution. And it it was a lot, and it was very scattered, but we were just going with what we had.
Yeah, you were finding your way.
Yeah.
You know, which is good. And so you would also help with the Black Mountain Pros. You said with Sam, you would help take supplies, and you were one of the first people to go into Beetree.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the church, I made an announcement. I was like, hey, my son's out in Garen Creek Road. Garen Creek Road was hit really hard, and, you know, there aren't emergency services out that road yet that I saw. And, you know, there's people that need help and need supplies. So, like, is there anybody that can help me backpack some supplies in? And Sam, it might be Weaver. I forget his last name. But he was very eager to help me, and found out that he was an Eagle Scout too. So we just, you know, I mean, it's when you have first aid training at a young age, it sticks with you. And and so he, you know, got his boots together, borrowed a solid frame backpack for me to use, and he had his gear, you know, ready to go, flashlights and everything. And he was like, you know, I'm here, like, let's go. And we kind of got, as you know, so we backpacked out there, dropped off a bunch of supplies with some of the neighbors that were linked up, you know, at that point. And the road had already been cleared. Some of the I think from what I heard, some of the my son's neighbors had excavators, and they actually got the road cleared extremely fast. And
that's great.
Yeah. So backpacked out some supplies, dropped some supplies with my son, and then, you know, and the rest of them with the community over there. And then Sam, you know, we just kind of started thinking, okay, where's another area, you know, like cooking, like, is the kitchen's going on? Like,
yeah,
the food,
it's working for itself now.
Yeah, that's happening. And you know, we need to go and make contact with other people. And so he had a man, one of his old landmates, that was in a wheelchair, that he really wanted to go check on. And so I was like, you know, I'm all yours.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
So that was the next stop. And it was...
And that was in Beetree?
No, that was in the Swannanoa area.
Okay.
Not all the way out to Beetree. So this was on the way to... Because I thought, you know, I need to go check on my old landlord's out Beetree Road. You know, we were just kind of starting.
You were coming up with the list of folks
to check on. And at this time, let's see, before don't know when it was, but I had the idea to, I was like, because everybody was trying to figure out who was okay. I was like, we need to start a big list of, you know, people that are okay, like the people are okay board. And so they, you know, the Presbyterian volunteers
started a board.
They took that on and just like ran with it.
And you and Sam were the hikers. You are the ones that were checking on.
So we were collecting names. So as we were out in different, you know, out Garen Creek Road, and then ultimately in Beetree and a couple other spots. We had a list, you know, that we were collecting. Like, you know, can you tell tell me, if your neighbors are okay, because there were a lot of people that were out walking around.
And remember, audience, no cell phone service still.
No.
I mean, for a long while.
Oh yeah. So we went out to Bee Tree Road, and I actually brought some photos to show Mary Noble here, so she can just give a reaction to
Oh my goodness.
what
That looks like a
we
house
saw.
on a river bed.
So this is John. He was out Bee Tree Road after I made contact with Brenda and Russ Jeffries at the base of Summer Haven Road. Super nice folks. He was so we hiked out, parked the car at a section where the road was completely missing. The river is typically just a very small river, and it had, risen maybe 20, 30 feet. And there were places where before the road was, or the river was maybe 15 feet wide. And now it was like 50, 75
There
feet
was
wide.
more houses when you go down Bee Tree Road on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
There's more of the, I mean, the ones on the right were probably up higher.
So I lived out there for maybe 2 years.
Okay.
And I did not like it was even more than Garen Creek Road, where I just did not recognize where I was, and like 20, 30 foot sections of the road completely gone, places where there used to be houses and yards and just nowhere to be seen. And we started seeing and we had backpacks hiking up, like we were crawling up under trees and around, big 75 to 100-year trees, old trees, to get out there. And we start seeing pieces of houses, like broken 2x4s, windows, pieces of roofing, just
in the river.
In the river, yeah, just on the edges of the river. And look at that.
Oh my gosh, that's Bee Tree Road.
Yeah, that was Bee Tree Road.
Wow.
And like houses were all along this side of the road. So get out, make contact with my old landlords, and then we saw this guy. I asked him, if there was anybody that they could check on, or that we could check on the way out, or that, and it was starting to get dark. And the Summer Haven Road, with about 45 addresses, was complete. Like, there were so many trees down that we didn't even start hiking up that road.
Oh my goodness.
And on hiking out, there's like one spot where, there was mud, and it was probably like one of the few spots that you could get through. And we only saw 2 boot prints in the mud, like leading up. And so I was like all these people are just trapped, and I mean, later to find out that this was a common thing, in a lot of different areas. But, so he was like, go check on John, his, double wide, trailer, 3/4 of it was just washed down the river, and, they're still staying there. It sounds like he doesn't want to evacuate because he has dogs. But I talked to him and his wife, and he was like, my bedroom survived, and, we don't want to leave. And yeah,
It's so hard to uproot someone that doesn't want to leave. And it sounds like everything was in slow motion. We talked about the quietness, and then slow motion of probably being able to get to these places was so difficult. And then having to talk to the folks and wrap them in love and support.
Yeah.
And it was, I know, hours and days and days and
where people were just trapped in their homes, and they didn't know what was going on. I mean, like that's the base of Summer Haven Road. That was the bridge, and we actually went past the road because we didn't see it, and I didn't see any of the houses that I would recognize, to turn up. And there was one guy that he didn't want to leave. His house was fine. He actually had a Starlink, and he was out there. He was like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, there was a blue house that was washed down the river. He told us that family got out, that they're okay. But
so it was a lot of communication through trial and error, through asking folks questions and
taking names and
what was and I'm pretty much going to answer this, but I want you. What was the general feeling when you would come up to people? Were they excited to see you?
Yeah. I like throughout this whole experience, everybody has just been so helpful and gracious, and wanting to help, and it, like, the whole town came together in ways that I just you could read about, or like.
It was amazing. We were not divided at all.
No.
It was, and it still is that way. It's such a loving feeling, and I think that we will continue to be strong together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to commend you for the efforts that you put out towards our community.
Thank you.
It brings tears to my eyes, because you really, you didn't sound like you had a plan, but you figured it out, trying to connect with your son's mother and your son, and then connecting with Bounty and Soul and the Presbyterian Church in Black Mountain, where you found your true gifts of being able to navigate all these lands that were unrecognizable, and wrapping folks in your arms and supporting them before anybody else got there, and I know everyone was scared, and I'm sure you were scared with all the fallen trees and possible trees that could fall. So thank you.
Hiking out from Bee Tree Road, we caught up with one of the people that did the scans on the dam. He was sent out to inspect it, and and this was after all of this destruction and people just stuck in homes and needing help. And we were like, "How's the dam?" He's like, "Well, it's there," and so our hearts just like dropped. And it's, he said,
because you were close to it at Bee Tree.
And he was worried, like he was worried about the dam and
breaking.
About it potentially breaking, because there were parts of it that had slumped off. And he said that if we had, more heavy rains, that he was worried about it. And that it would be a 85-foot wall of water coming down that valley. And, it would have just wiped everything that was still there away. And yeah, that like, it was just like all of this destruction, and then this silence, and then, and then like, really, like there could be more.
I do want to touch on that one more time, the silence.
Yeah.
I was talking to a farmer who I interviewed not too long ago, actually on Saturday at the tailgate market, and he said that's where we have to lean into healing. So we've had this destruction, and these beautiful stories that you're sharing right now and support. And then it's the silence after everything, and that's when, the healing starts.
Yeah.
And we still have a lot to do, but I keep on hearing that or going through that in my mind of just the day after how silent it was.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw a red light. I was so happy to see a red light. Like in town, like a little bit of the power was restored, and same with like sirens. Usually I like cover my ears, and but when I started hearing sirens, that after like a day or two, I was like, yay, like
Yeah, back to normal. Well, oh, you have such a great story, and I know there's a couple more things that
Yeah.
you want to touch on because we only have probably about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
But so after your Eagle Scout adventures, I'll call it, of really helping folks make sure they were okay, or checking off the list of people that were okay and the people that weren't, and probably being able to share that with the Black Mountain Fire Department or police. Were you able to do that as well?
So the first like maybe 3 days or 4 days of like trying to check in, like the fire department, police stations, they were in the dark too, and they like I would stop, check in before going into an area, and try to get information or give information. And it was like they, like one time they were like, it might, Black Mountain Fire Department thought it would take up to 4 hours to get out to Garen Creek Road. But it took 30 minutes, like there was like, they didn't have
know.
communication
Yeah.
either, and very spotty, radio. So I just kind of stopped checking in first. I was just like, I have a mission, and just kind of went with that.
Yeah. Well, all right. So after your hiking Eagle Scout adventures, you went down and helped your mom at the River Arts District.
Yeah.
So I know there's some information that you want to share with the audience. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So when I was going to check on my dad, in Asheville, I went down onto Tunnel Road, in front of the Lowe's. Like I hiked down, kind of looking for survivors and people that might need help, and at the same time photographing, because I think like photographs are really important when we look back on events like this. And mud got into my boots and started to burn my feet and my ankles really bad. I got home, scrubbed my feet and ankles with soap within maybe 45 minutes, and my feet and ankles didn't stop burning for 6 days from that mud. So I got chemical burns from that, and then this maybe 6 days after the flood, my mom and I were allowed to go and see if we could salvage anything from the gallery that was flooded.
In the Rivers Arts District.
Yeah, in Marquee. And after being in that building for maybe 10 minutes, we both started feeling like we were going to collapse. Like heart rates were rised, and you could smell like the smell of chemicals. And I started tasting bitter after maybe 15 minutes. Was only in there for maybe 30 minutes, and I interviewed some of the artists, and then my health started to decline pretty rapidly. I started experiencing neurological issues. So that night, I like my lymph nodes were swollen. I started experiencing aphasia. The following day, I kept feeling worse and worse, and
And you'd been through a lot too.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I'm not saying that that's not real, because I've heard from several people the same thing,
Yeah.
that the burning
Yeah.
of the boots, and that there was lots of chemicals down there.
So with my restorations, I've experienced chemical inhalation and exposure hundreds of times, and this felt different. Like it was like in my spine and in my bones, and I my nervous system like felt like it was just shutting down. I got some rest, like drank a lot of fluids, started taking some detoxifying herbs and stuff, and but I saw all these people like coming to help us, and like everything was just so busy, like let's clean up, let's do this, and I saw the mud starting to turn into dust, and they're like one of my landlords, she has a friend that works in a building where they housed chemicals, and that whole building, tanks and everything just was wiped away, and that's just one of the those
One of the
sites.
thousands,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's in the river.
And so I was like, and for my Eagle Scout project, I mean, tying it back to that was actually a river cleanup on the French Broad River, and so I just started feeling like it's my mission to to try and help make sure that the soil is tested properly, and that we have like, 'cause we really need to have a lot of conversations about like how to do this cleanup, and to do it in the right way. Like I just watched my stepdad and helped like decline from neurological problems, and it was like it was a really tough thing to go through.
Oh, yeah.
And like we're always trying to find cures as humans, and like this is something where like testing the soil in the right ways and the water, and like really having the right protection, like breathing protection and plan going forward to like take samples from different. So I went and put on full hazmat into the River Arts District and took about 30 different soil samples, mud samples to send off, and just just to make sure that testing is being done.
You have a huge heart. You've gone from Eagle Scout hiking to now to the river, and so I want people to know your mission, because Kenan is really adamant also about starting a documentary about this whole experience, but also really protecting the rivers as well.
Yeah, and they can KLK Campers on Instagram is where you can follow me, and you can send a message. I can also
I'll have it on my Facebook, and I just loved the whole how you brought everything together, and
I was just one of the pieces. There were a lot of other people.
Oh yeah, but you have a really amazing heart to care for all these people, and also care for the land, and I can tell you were able to get through it really easily. It was second nature to you.
I don't know about the easily.
Well,
but
according to your stories, I mean, you
it was tough.
You moved a lot of ground. No, you didn't move. You walked a lot of ground, and I know I'm a Knowles graduate. I know how that can be. Also, having to get to certain places at a certain time, especially in emergency situations. And, you were here for so many folks. All right. So I am going to have your Instagram.
An email. If anybody wants to email me with photos or stories to link up on the film project. That'd be great.
So I'll have your Instagram and then
and for the soil and water testing too.
Yeah.
I still have some samples that I need to have sent off and tested. So if anybody can help with that,
you've got some great things in the works. Yes, and if folks want to collaborate with Kenan about the soil testing and the water quality, reach out to him. You can find, I'll have a post on the Mountain Magnolia page, and we're also, you can find us on the 96.1 Bear as well. We'll copy them on the post. So I just want to thank you, Kenan. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
I think we're out of time.
Okay.
But love you guys. Hang in there. We're all in this. We all got into this together, and we'll all come out of it together. Just be safe.
Thank you. This is Mary Noble Braden at the Mountain Magnolia Show. In love and peace.
The preceding has been a production of Signal Hill Studios. For more information, please call 704-872-0550.